conversation has been all along that the road construction, you know, sort of is one aspect of the project, and then there's the treatment of the increased green space. That, you know, we don't know that that number we've been working for will address, you know, cover those improvements. And while there can be grants, you know, that are mentioned in the proposal that will be sought, there also may be a phased approach, and that their design and engineering will address that possibility, which I think is a benefit as well. That's something that we wanted to have built in. Of course, we would love to do everything at once, but if our funds don't allow for it, then we would have a plan on how to proceed. So that's why it's a very comprehensive process.
Yep.
I have Down Pollock, 4395 North Alpine. I have two things. We don't know if there's going to be increased green space because they're going to look at all options. So they could leave the road as is and put a boulevard in also, correct?
Right, that would be,
Okay, so
we
that's
still
one
have to
issue.
make the decision.
And then the second.
But that would have greenery in as part of it.
Could.
I guess it maybe.
Okay, and then the second thing is, I brought this up at the strategic initiatives, is a traffic study, a comprehensive traffic study that would entail Lake Drive, Oakland, and Wilson Drive. I think so we had an impact study, because I think Oakland is really, it's been a real issue for residents. And now you're talking about putting the bicycle lanes there, narrowing Lake Drive with bicycle lanes, and then Wilson Drive being narrowed. I think it's important to, you know, we always talk about best practices. This might be something that we would consider. And Leanne was kind enough to clarify what a simple traffic study, which was referenced in the packet, meant. But I just really would like the board to consider a comprehensive traffic study, please. Thank you.
Process-wise, how would that be factored in that type of a traffic study? Because it's not part of this engineering, or maybe Leanne, you'd have an idea about that, but how would a request for a comprehensive traffic study be considered by the board? Would it be attached to a project like this, or would it be standalone?
I would think in most cases that would be a standalone project. The only reason I hesitate is that it relates to the timetable. This has a very tight timetable, and so, you know, that discussion and laying that out would have to, we would have to have, the board would have to discuss how these parallel activities would at some point intersect, and what time on the calendar that might be, and how that kind of impacts the remainder of the dominoes in that one.
So I guess what I would, and then, because I know Trustee Rozak had requested that too, so would it be a future agenda item that we would, at committee level, to consider? Because I wouldn't want it to look like we forgot or overlooked or just didn't ever consider doing a comprehensive. I guess I would like to know more about what that means and if it is possible.
I think perhaps we've got a perfect opportunity at the initiation stage of this program to have the discussion with Grafe about what that would mean. Express to them our interest, our concerns with Wilson, Oakland Lake, and have them tell us what best practices are, or make a recommendation, and if there's something we need to do.
I'd like to see what their expertise weighs into it.
So we could
I
get a
mean, they
meeting.
did capital, so they're familiar with the traffic on Lake and that flow of traffic.
So there may
They
be
know
some
the loads on
information.
Oakland.
Plus the construction on Oakland will be continued, or will be completed by this time, hopefully, so we'll have a better understanding of the traffic without all of the construction, which has slowed things down. So it'll be nice to see that in practice as well.
Jennifer Cooney, Vulpes 4331 North Alpine. I brought this up in committee and someone suggested I bring it up to the board. But I have 2 points. One of them is again, I've got my Friends of Estabrook Park board hat on, but there's concern on the board that if the traffic is restricted somehow on Wilson, that it will just increase the traffic on Estabrook Parkway, which has increased enormously. And not just that, we have a lot of speeding troubles there. I mean, you can watch people passing each other on Estabrook Parkway, and the speed limit is 25 there. So the Friends of Estabrook Park is looking at putting those sleeping sailors, or whatever those lumps are on the road.
Sleeping policemen.
Speed humps, that's it. And so.
I like sleeping sailor.
So they're looking at actually purchasing those, but if we could also be aware that keeping traffic flow on Wilson Drive, fluid, that would help a lot. The second thing I'd like to bring up is the aesthetics of Wilson Drive. And it is an entrance into Shorewood. It's a beautiful entrance. It's got a park on one side and lovely streets on the other. And if this group could be aware of the aesthetics of the space and making driving down Wilson Drive a good experience. And as I said before, I'm not concerned about sculptures or fountains or any of those amenities. Just, we do have nature on one side that could not be more wonderful. And then, as I said, Shorewood on the other. So.
That's a great point, because I think what I've heard from every board member is, and what community members, et cetera, the conservation committee going back many, many, many years, Friends of Estabrook Park from 10 years ago, et cetera, is to make sure that the experience, not just by motorists, but by cyclists, but people on foot, in a variety of modalities is a pleasant one. And so I'm so excited that we have this opportunity to work with this firm in order to express all of the needs and desires of the village members. Thank you for your work, and all of you on the, not only on the committee, but on the steering committee and the working groups, because this was a long process. It was a community, a citizen-led process.
And
So
it's not done yet?
it's not done yet, so yeah, there's more to go, so. Anyway, thank you.
Did your hand up before?
I did. I'm Rosie Braddock. I live at 4248 North Ardmore Avenue. And I would like some reason to be confident with, if we narrow Wilson Drive, that traffic isn't going to overflow into the neighborhood streets. The few times that there's been a backup, my neighborhood looked really different. And so I want to preserve the quiet, gentle culture of those side streets. And without a traffic study, I'm not sure that I have anything to hang my confidence on. If we're narrowing the street, how do I know what additional traffic I can expect on my street? 5% more traffic, 10%? How do we know without a traffic study what the impact will be?
Traffic study is in the proposal.
It is in the proposal.
But
Yeah, I don't,
Okay.
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear.
But I'd like to add to that if I could. There's no way to 100% determine what that is, so some of the growing pains of making any kind of change, but, will be realized at the time. But what you can be assured of is that you have a 7-member board here and dedicated staff who listen to residents who also share the same concerns, so that we are able to act on whatever the outcome will be. We can't guarantee now in advance that your traffic will not increase on your street. But if it does on your street or anyone's street here, it becomes problematic, we have a system in place where we can make adjustments and are constantly, making adjustments.
You mean after construction? No, I guess I just,
What I mean by that is
before
we can change the
construction.
laws, or we can change the traffic flow, or, put stop signs, speed humps, whatever,
Okay.
in neighborhoods, in that we can't predict the future
Right.
right now, but we will have a traffic study which will inform us with some data. But even with that, even if it comes out perfectly and there still is are problems, you have a board here that is willing and wants to make sure that the residential experience is a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone on this board who is not here because they don't want to serve the public.
Oh,
So anyway, so we can't predict it, but.
I'm unclear about what exactly you're promising in terms of future board action.
What am I promising?
Maybe you could clarify for me your statement
I
as to what you're
I
promising.
won't speak for you, how about that? I will withdraw that and say, as a board member here, I will listen to whatever the concerns are, and I will, and I'm hoping the rest of the board members will do this as well, look to any kind of traffic changes and patterns and residential concerns, and continue to do that, as I believe all of us have. And then if adjustments need to be made in policy, or if we need to increase speed humps, or look at other traffic calming measures on your street or the adjacent streets, that would be a priority.
It just seems to me, this is the time to get it right.
But you
now,
can't
I mean-
predict, exactly, I hear you, but we can't change everything until, there's some things that you can't put the cart in front of the horse.
Right. So for example, are we doing the traffic study after the mosaic is populated? Because I mean, that people will exit onto Olive. So I imagine that Olive, for people heading west, will be much more attractive than,
We're talking about traffic study for Wilson Drive.
I know, but I'm just saying that I would imagine that there'll be a pretty popular route to take Olive down to Wilson. So are we waiting until the mosaic is populated to do our study, or?
Right, so, yeah, because this came up in committee too, so kind of the question is, there's a building that's gonna have however many new neighbors that will have cars that come in and out of the village from that area, from the downtown area. And what will be the impact of that and how in relation to design issues, design considerations for Wilson Drive. Is that?
Yeah, so are we, when we do the traffic study, is it important enough to wait until the mosaic is populated to see their impact on Wilson Drive? That was my question.
And I don't think so. Look, the design professionals will tell us the answers to that.
Okay.
I mean, they know what we need, and that is an optimal design for Wilson Drive. They understand, my belief is they have an understanding based on all the research they've done to date, including reading all of the comments from the public meeting last summer, of all the concerns and interests. We're going to have, there is a kickoff meeting where we're going to staff and they will talk about the steps moving forward, and at least, I mean, right now there are two, as trustee Aventi pointed out, two public information meetings scheduled to provide information and get feedback. So I've got to sit and trust the professionals that when they take all that in, that if they need to, if it doesn't make sense to do a particular study right now because something is so significant, that they'll tell us that. Maybe we have to ask them to tell us that, but I think generally that's something that the professionals would do.
Thank you.
They did talk specifically about measuring at each intersection how many people are going left. Because I think, to me, more than the mosaic, it's a question of if we don't have an ability for traffic to flow, if we don't have a left turn lane and people are backing up waiting for someone to make a left, that is, I think, probably a bigger issue in terms of traffic on the west side. So, and they are looking at each intersection to see how many people are turning left and what the backup will be.
Yeah, because they can lower that backup.
Right.
We're going from a two-lane street to a two-lane street. So it's not like we're going from a four-lane street to a two-lane street. Yes. Who wants to talk?
When we say we want the optimum,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
your name, please.
Adrian Help, 4235 North Wilson, just a block off Wilson. When we say we want the optimum design, that they'll be designing the optimum Wilson Drive design. I'd like to know, are we, and ask, will we please prioritize safety? As the village survey came back, pretty much the top priority of everybody is safety, whether it's pedestrian or road or bike. Safety also being, you know, just a block off Wilson. We do have traffic that comes from Wilson Drive, frustrated because traffic is stopped up for whatever reason. We have that right now. So that's a concern to those of us who live close by, is what kind of traffic is going to be pushed into the neighborhoods. And the argument that, well, it's not a direct path, doesn't make any sense to me, because it's not people who know where they're going who turn frustrated onto my street. It's people who want to get off Wilson Drive and find their way, and they will become lost in the neighborhood, but they don't know that when they take that turn off Wilson Drive. So I'm hoping that safety is one of those top 2 criterion as we design the road.